Honourable judges and fellow debaters, we the negative strongly oppose the affirmative plan of implementing absentee balloting in national elections in Taiwan. Let's first point out the problems of the plan and now elaborate on our minor repairs. So first of all, according to our definition, implement means to give practical effect to and ensure actual fulfillment by concrete measures. And their plan, they didn't show us how this could give practical effect to our election right now. They kept saying that 21.7% is a huge number and 21.7% are the absentee voters, but they didn't show us that these 21.7% will go voting if this plan got implemented, because actually these 21.7% might still not go to vote, which means that the actual number might be a lot smaller than this 21.7%. And they also kept talking about equality. But actually, in other theories, there are different kinds of explanation, such as Jason Brennan, who said that this voting doesn't mean to get as many people to vote, it means good. Sometimes there will be bad voting in our system, which means that if some people, they didn't think thoroughly, they didn't understand the whole system thoroughly, and they understand the election thoroughly, and then they go voting, probably that will be bad voting. And this is a very famous theory, which means that there are different explanations of that equality, they said. Also, since they talk about equality, they didn't show us which group of people they are going to help. They kept saying that some people cannot get to the polling station, but there are actually lots of different people. No matter if people because of traffic problems, some people because they are ill in the hospital, some people in the prison, they cannot get to the polling station. Will they be included in their plan? We didn't see that in the constructive speech. And they also brought up the idea that absentee balloting can get more people to vote, and there is a big misconception because getting many people to vote perhaps will create a majority. However, every result operated on the democratic system can create a plurality, which means the institutional majority already, which is reasonable under institutional democracy. So it is not a necessary reason, and it is stated in Hu Zuting's theory, which is a very famous political scientist. Well, let's talk about their plans. And they said that they're going to propose a plan of implementing it should be transfer voting. However, in terms of transfer voting, there are several concerns which need to be eradicated. First, they didn't show us how to avoid violating or breaching the animosity principle in legislators' election. Since there may only be a small number of voters voting for the same constituency in a polling station, it is easy to trace who voted for whom. Second, safety for the polling staff who works in prison, because there might be this sort of polling station in prison if they try to help prisoners' rights. And also, they didn't show us if the application days for this sort of plan should be lengthened, because if you implement transfer voting, it will be a lot complicated than the status quo, which means that other factors should be included in the plan. And compared to the plan, our minor repairs clause improves the convenience for people to vote under certain conditions. And these are the two clauses. One is companies should allow voting leave for workers. Laws request the companies to allow short length of time of voting leave for workers to conduct the vote needs to be presented. In this case, people can still work on election days, but more flexible to participate in the democratic procedure with convenience. Two, the legislative yuan should lengthen the voting hours, but still within a day. Since there are several voters living a little bit far away from the constituency, it takes time for them to get to their polling stations. With the notice of long travel time, it is recommended to lengthen the voting hours for them to get there on time. However, it should be aware that the time cannot be over a day, which may affect the simultaneity of voting that my teammate mentioned earlier in constructive speech. Thank you.
Believe, okay, let me ask, are the absentee voters also Taiwanese citizens?
Absentee voters are Taiwanese citizens, yes.
So do you believe it is the absentee voters' right to vote?
Yes, and their rights are ensured right now in the status quo.
How are their rights ensured when you don't care if they vote or not?
They can get to the polling station in their own ways, and their rights are not. They might be inconvenient though, but their rights are ensured in our current law.
So you don't think you have the responsibility to ensure that their right is protected?
No, my answer is that their right is protected right now in the status quo right now.
Okay,
They are no more violating their right?
So you don't think you have the responsibility to make it more convenient for them to vote, to express their political opinion?
That's a different story. I was responding to your rights convention, and if you think you're talking about responsibility, and that would be your responsibility to prove that you need the responsibility to get them to vote. That would be your contention, not my contention.
Okay. So don't you think? Okay. So let me rephrase. Is it correct that your your site does not provide a practical way for the absentee voters to vote?
Yes, we do propose our minority pairs, which help them who are inconvenient to vote to get to the polling station on this election day. Yes, one is that it's voting leave for workers, and two is to lengthen the voting hours, but still within a day for a single polling station, so that they can travel to that polling station on time, in time.
Okay, but according to your partner's first speech, which the definition of having an equal election is having equal length of time.
Yes, it's still within a day. It's not like 2 days or 3 days election. And understanding manner is as simultaneity.